The last resort. Warning, gravitational anomaly detected. All crew, secure stations. The calm, synthesized voice of the ship's AI echoed through the corridors of the Galactic Council vessel Australis, as Ren Harlow tightened the last bolt on, the atmospheric regulator. Her muscles ached from the 12 hours she'd already spent crawling through maintenance shafts, but that was life as the token human on a predominantly alien crew. "Just once," she muttered, wiping sweat from her brow. "I'd like to finish a repair without another emergency." The ship lurched suddenly, sending Ren sliding across the polished floor of engineering. Tools scattered across the deck as artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. She grabbed a support beam, steadying herself as the emergency lights activated, bathing everything in a dim red glow. "Harlow!" The voice crackled through her comm unit. "Report to the bridge immediately." Captain Krell, with his usual impeccable timing. Ren gathered her tools, securing them in her belt before making her way through the now chaotic corridors. The ship shuddered again as she entered the bridge, finding the command crew in disarray. Krell's 4 eyes narrowed as she approached. The Valerian captain's scaled skin reflected the warning lights flashing across every console. "Engineer Harlow, explain why my ship is falling apart." "With all due respect, Captain, I was fixing the atmospheric regulator when we hit whatever this is," Ren replied, gesturing toward the view screen that showed a swirling mass of energy outside. "It's a temporal gravitational anomaly," explained Science Officer Tezzy, her tentacles moving rapidly across her station's controls. The Medusan's bioluminescent skin pulsed with anxiety. "Unpredicted and highly unstable. We're being pulled toward its center." "Engine status?" Krell demanded. Navigator Draal, a willowy Sylphian whose 4 arms worked furiously at his console, shook his head. "Main propulsion is offline. Something's damaged the primary drive coupling." The captain turned his attention back to Ren. "Fix it." "Yes, sir," she replied, already heading for the door. Just another day as the only human engineer on a ship designed for species with vastly different physiologies. The main engineering bay was in chaos. Chief Engineer Vorex was coordinating emergency teams, his 12-fingered hands moving in the complex gestures of his native language as he directed his staff. The massive Torrid looked up as Ren entered, his broad shoulders heaving with exertion. "Harlow, the coupling chamber is offline. We need access to manually reset the connections." Ren checked the schematics on her tablet. "The access tunnel is only 20 centimeters wide," she observed. "Precisely why you're here," Vorex rumbled. "None of our engineering crew can fit. Even Mixie is too wide." He gestured toward the smallest crew member, a Proxian whose multi-jointed limbs were ideal for delicate work, but whose exoskeleton made squeezing through tight spaces impossible. Ren nodded, already gathering the necessary tools. This wasn't the first time her comparatively simple human physiology had proven useful. While most galactic species had evolved specialized adaptations, extra limbs, exoskeletons, tentacles, or compound eyes, humans remained surprisingly generalist. Jack of all trades, master of none, as the old saying went. "The coupling is located 60 meters in," Vorex explained, projecting a holographic map. "You'll need to remove the damaged section and manually recouple the power conduits. Without it, we won't have enough thrust to escape the anomaly's pull." "Time frame?" Ren asked, securing her repair kit. 30 minutes before we're pulled beyond recovery range." "I'll need 15, she replied, heading toward the narrow maintenance tunnel. The access tunnel was barely wide enough for Ren's shoulders. She inched forward on her stomach, dragging her toolkit behind her. The ship continued to shudder around her as the anomaly's gravitational waves buffeted the hull. "Status update," came the captain's voice through her comm. 20 meters in, Ren replied, grunting as she squeezed past a junction, approaching the coupling chamber. "Hurry, Harlow. The anomaly is strengthening." As if to emphasize his point, the ship lurched violently, throwing Ren against the side of the tunnel. Pain shot through her shoulder, but she pushed on. 40 meters, 50. Finally, she reached the coupling chamber. The damage was immediately apparent. The primary, power coupling, had been wrenched from its housing, leaving a gap in the connection. Without it, the engines couldn't receive power from the main reactor. "I've reached the coupling," she reported. "It's completely dislodged from the housing." "Can you repair it?" asked Vorex. Ren examined the damage more carefully. "The coupling itself is intact, but the housing is warped. I need to reshape it before I can reattach the coupling." "Impossible," Vorex replied. "You don't have the necessary tools for structural reconfiguration." Ren stared at the damaged components, her mind racing. The housing was designed to be serviced by mechanical arms controlled from outside, arms that were now non-functional. The space was too confined for any tool she had brought. Then she noticed something. The housing wasn't completely warped, just distorted enough that the coupling couldn't seat properly. If she could apply pressure in just the right spots. "I have an idea," she said, removing her boots. "But it's unconventional." "Explain," demanded Krell, who had clearly been listening to the exchange. "The housing needs to be reshaped. I can't use tools in this space, but I can use my body. Specifically, my feet." A moment of silence followed. "Your feet?" Vorex finally asked, confusion evident in his voice. "Humans have surprisingly dexterous toes," Ren explained, already maneuvering into position. "Not as good as fingers, but good enough for this job." She lay on her back, bracing her shoulders against the tunnel wall. With careful movements, she positioned her bare feet on either side of the warped housing. Slowly, she applied pressure, using her toes to grip specific points on the metal. "This is absurd," muttered Krell over the comm. "It might be," Ren grunted, feeling the metal beginning to bend back into shape. "But it's working." For 10 agonizing minutes, she manipulated the housing with her feet, alternating pressure points until the warped section gradually returned to its original configuration. Her leg muscles burned with the effort, but finally, the housing was straight enough to receive the coupling. "Housing is reshaped," she reported, breathing heavily, moving to reinstall the coupling now. Using her hands again, Ren carefully lifted the heavy coupling and aligned it with the newly straightened housing. With a satisfying click, the component locked into place. Immediately, the ship's engines hummed to life, the vibration traveling through the metal beneath her. "Coupling reattached and functioning," she announced. "Power flow to engines restored." "Confirmed," came Vorex's surprised voice. "Engine power at 80% and rising. Well done, Harlow." "Return to the bridge. Once you've exited the access tunnel," Krell ordered, his tone giving away nothing. 20 minutes later, Ren stood on the bridge, still dirty from her crawl through the maintenance tunnel. The view screen showed the anomaly receding behind them as the Astralis pulled away on its restored engines. Captain Krell studied her with his 4 eyes. "Your unconventional approach saved my ship, Engineer Harlow." "Thank you, sir. However," he continued, "I must ask, is this typical human engineering protocol? Using body parts as tools?" Ren suppressed a smile. "Not exactly protocol, Captain. We call it improvisation." "Improvisation," he repeated, testing the word. "A curious concept." Science Officer Tezzy approached, her tentacles gently pulsing with light. "I've analyzed the anomaly's effects on our systems. The coupling wasn't the only damage. We have multiple secondary failures throughout the ship, many in similarly inaccessible areas." Krell's face hardened as he turned to Ren. "It seems your improvisation will be required again, Engineer. Report to Chief Vorex for your next assignment." As Ren left the bridge, she heard Krell asking Tezzy, "Tell me more about human feet. Are they truly that useful?" The ship lurched again, a reminder that their troubles were far from over. But for the first time since joining the crew, Ren felt a sense of purpose. Her human adaptability, so often dismissed as primitive by the specialized species of the Galactic Council, might just be what they needed most. She smiled to herself as she headed back to engineering. Sometimes being the galaxy's generalist had its advantages. Proving ground, Ren's muscles ached as she emerged from yet another maintenance shaft. 3 days had passed since their encounter with the anomaly, and the Australis remained in a precarious state. While they had escaped the immediate gravitational pull, the ship's systems continued to fail in cascading patterns. 7 repairs completed, she reported, collapsing into a chair in engineering. But I found 3 more issues that need immediate attention. Chief Engineer Vorex handed her a hydration packet, his 12 fingers working deftly to adjust something on his tablet. Your efficiency is commendable, Harlow. The rest of the engineering crew combined has completed only 11 repairs in the same time frame. It wasn't a compliment, merely a statement of fact, but Wren appreciated it nonetheless. Most of those repair sites would have been inaccessible to your team regardless of their skill, she reminded him, flexing her sore toes. After the success with the coupling, her feet had become surprisingly valuable tools in the cramped confines of the ship's infrastructure. Precisely why the captain has authorized me to prioritize your deployment, Vorex replied. Our specialized, evolutionary adaptations are insufficient for certain tasks. Your, what did you call it? Improvisation. Yes. Your improvisation appears to be our most valuable resource at present. The ship-wide comm system crackled to life before Wren could respond. Engineering. This is the bridge. We've detected a critical failure in the life support matrix. Oxygen recyclers are offline in sections 5 through 12. Vorex's expression darkened. That's half the residential deck. Rerouting crew to safe zones, came Navigator Drawl's voice. But we need those. Recyclers operational within 2 hours. Wren was already checking the schematics. The central oxygen distribution node is located between the hull plating and the internal structure, she observed. Standard access would require cutting through 3 bulkheads, which we cannot do without compromising hull integrity, Vorex confirmed. The access port is only 15 centimeters wide. Even you cannot fit through it. Wren studied the schematic more carefully. I don't need to fit my whole body through, just my arm. The damaged components are 2 meters from the access port, Vorex pointed out. Your arm is not long enough. But my arm combined with the right tool could be. Wren was already heading toward the fabrication station. I need a custom tool, something like a mechanical extension of my hand. 30 minutes later, Wren stood before the tiny access port with her newly fabricated tool, essentially a telescoping rod with a simplified mechanical hand at the end, controlled by a neural interface wrapped around her wrist. This is utterly primitive technology, remarked Mixie, the Proxian engineer who had assisted with the fabrication. His compound eyes shifted rapidly between the tool and Wren's face. But theoretically functional. Primitive works sometimes, Wren replied, inserting her arm and the tool into the narrow port. The neural interface tingled against her skin as it synchronized with her nervous system. Now, let's see if I can feel what I'm doing. The mechanical hand extended into the dark, space between the hull layers guided by the minute movements of Wren's fingers. On her tablet screen, a camera feed showed the oxygen distribution node 2 meters away, its indicator lights flashing red. I see the problem, she reported. The primary valve is stuck in the closed position. The backup should have engaged, but something's blocking it. Can you clear it? Asked Vorex, who was monitoring her progress from a nearby console. I'm trying, Wren muttered, carefully maneuvering the mechanical hand toward the valve. The neural interface translated her finger movements with surprising accuracy, allowing the tool to grasp the valve control. Got it. Now I just need to... The ship lurched suddenly, throwing Wren against the wall. Pain shot through her shoulder as her arm wrenched inside the access port. What was that? She gasped. Secondary effect from the anomaly, explained Science Officer Tezzi, who had just entered engineering. We're experiencing temporal echoes. The gravitational distortions are replaying themselves at random intervals. Great timing, Wren grunted. Repositioning herself, the jolt had knocked her tool out of alignment, and now the mechanical hand hung limply just centimeters from the valve. I've lost fine control of the tool? Can you retract and try again? Asked Vorex. Wren tested the movement and winced. No, my arm is stuck at this angle. I can't pull back without damaging either the port or my shoulder. Silence fell over engineering as the implications became clear. Without the oxygen recyclers, half the crew would be at risk within hours. Perhaps, Tezzy began tentatively, her tentacles pulsing with thoughtful light patterns. Perhaps you don't need fine control. Ren looked at the Medusan scientist. What do you mean? Your species evolved as pursuit predators, did you not? Able to track prey over long distances through endurance and persistence? Yes, but what does that have to do with? Observation suggests you possess remarkable proprioception, awareness of your body's position in space, even without visual confirmation. Could you operate the tool through, what would you call it, muscle memory? Ren considered this. It was true that humans could perform complex physical tasks without looking, tying shoelaces, typing on keyboards, even playing musical instruments with eyes closed. But manipulating a mechanical hand through a neural interface to repair alien technology? It's worth trying, she decided. Vorex, can you give me audio feedback about the tool's position? The chief engineer nodded, adjusting his console. Calibrating now. The tool is currently 2.3 centimeters below the valve control and 1.7 centimeters to the left. Ren closed her eyes, focusing entirely on the sensations coming through the neural interface. She visualized the space, the position of the valve, the distance her mechanical hand needed to travel. Up slowly, Vorex directed. 2 centimeters, 1.5, 1/2 a centimeter, and stop. Now right by 1.7 centimeters, 1.5, 1/2, perfect position. Ren held her breath, making minute adjustments with her fingers. The neural interface translated these movements to the mechanical hand. The fingers are aligning with the valve control, reported Vorex. Almost there. With a gentle squeeze of her hand, Ren felt the mechanical fingers close around the valve. A distant click echoed through the hull. Contact established, Vorex confirmed. Now rotate clockwise 45 degrees. Ren twisted her wrist carefully, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. Another click, followed by the hum of machinery coming back online. Primary valve released, announced Vorex. Oxygen recyclers reactivating in sections 5 through 12. Success, Harlow. Exhaustion washed over Ren as Mixie helped extract her arm from the access port. That's one more for the human scorecard, she joked weakly. Indeed, agreed Tezzy, her tentacles glowing with what Ren had come to recognize as admiration. Your species' adaptability continues to impress. Over the next week, Ren's reputation aboard the Australis transformed. What had once been barely concealed, skepticism about the primitive human, had evolved into something approaching respect. Her solutions might be unorthodox, at one point involving using her hair to clear microscopic debris from a sensor array, but they worked. Captain Krell summoned her to the bridge on the 8th day after their encounter with the anomaly. The Samoa. Valerian sat in his command chair, reviewing reports on a holographic display. Engineer Harlow, he acknowledged as she entered. Our situation has improved. Coming from Krell, this was high praise indeed. Thank you, sir. The crew has worked well together. Indeed. He dismissed the holographic display with a wave of his hand. However, we face one final challenge. The main reactor cooling system is failing. Without intervention, we risk a cascade meltdown within 6 hours. Ren's stomach tightened. The cooling system requires precision adjustments. Automation would normally handle it, but our automation was damaged by the anomaly, Krell finished. Yes, which is why I've authorized a manual override procedure. A chill ran down Ren's spine. Manual override of a Class 3 fusion reactor? Sir, that's never been done outside of simulation. There is no alternative, Krell stated flatly. The procedure requires simultaneous manipulation of 12 control rods to stabilize the reaction while cooling is restored. Traditionally, this would require 6 technicians with specialized training. Or 1 Torrid, Ren realized, thinking of Vorex's 12-fingered hands. Precisely. However, Chief Engineer Vorex cannot fit into the reactor control chamber. The radiation shielding restricts the entry port to approximately 40 centimeters in diameter. And you need me to go in, Ren concluded. It wasn't a question. Krell fixed her with all 4 eyes. The fate of this vessel and its crew depends on it. Can your human adaptability extend to this task? The reactor control chamber was a spherical room at the heart of the ship, barely 3 meters in diameter. In the center floated a translucent orb containing the fusion reaction itself, surrounded by 12 control rods positioned like the hours on an old Earth clock. The procedure is theoretically simple, explained Vorex through Ren's comm unit as she squeezed through the narrow entry port. All 12 control rods must be rotated precisely 33 degrees counterclockwise simultaneously to engage the manual cooling protocol. Simple if you have 12 hands, Ren muttered, surveying the control rods. Each one resembled a metallic joystick with a rotating grip. But I've only got 2. Hence the problem, Vorex agreed. We've never needed a manual override before. The system was designed with torids in mind. Ren circled the reactor core, studying the layout. The control rods were arranged in a perfect circle, each exactly 1 meter from its neighbors. Reaching even 4 or 5 simultaneously would be impossible. I need to think like a human, she said quietly, more to herself than to Vorex. Not like a Taurid or a Medusan or a Sylphian. What would a human do? She removed her boots, then her uniform jacket. Laying them aside, she approached the reactor core again, measuring distances with her eyes. I have a solution, she announced. But you're not going to believe it. At this point, Harlow, I would believe anything, replied Vorex. Ren positioned herself in the center of the room, directly beneath the floating reactor core. With careful movements, she lay down on her back, spreading her arms and legs wide. Initiating manual override, she reported. On my mark. She stretched her arms and legs to their maximum extent, pressing her palms against 2 control rods and her bare feet against 2 more. That was only 4 of the 12, but it was a start. Harlow, what are you doing? Demanded Krell, who had clearly joined Vorex in monitoring her progress. Improvising, Ren replied. With a deep breath, she arched her back, raising her torso, off the floor. Now she could press her elbows against 2 more control rods and her knees against another 2. 8 down, 4 to go. This is unprecedented, muttered Vorex. Using so many body parts simultaneously for precise mechanical manipulation. The remaining 4 control rods. Ren gasped, her body already trembling with the effort of maintaining the awkward position. I can't reach them conventionally. Then the procedure fails, Krell stated. We evacuate what crew we can and— No, Ren interrupted. I can do this. Humans are more flexible than you think. With a final, determined movement, she tilted her head back until her chin pressed against 1 control rod. Her right cheek pushed against another, her left cheek against a third. 1 more, she grunted, her entire body shaking now. It's impossible, Vorex insisted. There's no way to engage the final control rod. Ren closed her eyes, focusing on the one part of her body still free to move. Watch me. With all the precision she could muster, she blew a stream of air directly at the final control rod. The carefully calibrated instrument, designed to respond to the lightest touch, began to rotate. All control rods engaging, reported Vorex, disbelief evident in his voice. 30 degrees, 32, 33. Manual override successful. Cooling systems reactivating. Ren collapsed to the floor, every muscle in her body screaming in protest. But around her, the reactor core's angry red glow faded to a cool blue as the cooling systems came back online. Ship stabilizing, came Navigator Drawl's voice over the comm. Reactor temperature dropping to safe levels. Captain Krell's voice followed, uncharacteristically warm. Well done, Engineer Harlow. It seems the Galactic Council's assessment of human capabilities has been insufficient. 2 weeks later, the Astralis docked at Starbase Epsilon for comprehensive repairs. Ren stood in the observation lounge, watching through the viewports as maintenance drones swarmed over the ship's hull. Captain Krell approached, standing beside her in silence for a moment before speaking. The Galactic Council has reviewed my report on our encounter with the anomaly. And? Ren asked, turning to face him. They were skeptical about my description of your methods. A hint of amusement flickered across his scaled features, particularly the reactor override procedure. I can imagine. Nevertheless, they have authorized a significant change to Council ship designs moving forward. Krell handed her a tablet. All new vessels will include what they're calling human-accessible service corridors, alongside the specialized access points for other species. Ren scrolled through the design specifications, a smile spreading across her face. They're standardizing improvisation. An oxymoron, surely, Krell observed, but apparently effective. He paused, then added, "They've also approved your transfer request." Her head snapped up. "They have? You will remain aboard the Astralis as Chief Human Engineer. The position was created specifically for you, with authority equal to Chief Engineer Vorex in your respective domains." I don't know what to say. Say nothing. Your actions have spoken sufficiently. Krell turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing, Harlow. The Council has requested that you provide training materials on human improvisation techniques for distribution to all ships with human crew members. Training materials? Ren chuckled. On how to use feet, elbows, and breath as engineering tools? Precisely. It seems your hands-free approach to problem-solving has opened the Council's eyes to possibilities they had not considered. With a respectful nod, he added, "Perhaps being a generalist in a galaxy of specialists has its advantages after all." As Krell departed, Ren turned back to the viewport, watching the stars beyond the starbase. For the first time since joining the Galactic Council fleet, she felt a sense of belonging, not despite her human limitations but because of her human adaptability. Sometimes, having fewer specialized adaptations meant finding solutions no one else could see. And in a universe full of unknowns, the ability to improvise might just be the most specialized adaptation of all.